Ethan Bell was perfect. Everyone said so. At just 9 years old, he seemed untouchable. Blessed. His family was one of the wealthiest in the city. The Bell Mansion was perched high on a hill, surrounded by manicured gardens and fountains that sparkled in the sun. Inside were glittering chandeliers, golden framed portraits of stern ancestors, and walls lined with books and trophies that bore the family name. Ethan's room was the envy of every boy at school. Walls painted sky blue, shelves crammed with the latest toys, stacks of comic books, and a bed so soft he often sank into it like a cloud. And everyone loved him. His parents doted on him. His teachers praised him. His classmates fought to sit next to him at lunch. Even strangers seemed to smile whenever they saw him. It was as if the world itself bent to keep Ethan happy. And it did. Until it didn't. It began on a Saturday, the day of his 9th birthday. The house buzzed with guests, the air rich with the smell of roasted meat and frosting. His parents had hired a magician and filled the backyard with balloons and games. All his friends were there, splashing in the pool, laughing, shouting his name. Ethan stood at the edge of the patio, wearing a paper crown, beaming as his father presented him with a golden watch. "For my perfect little man," his father said, voice thick with pride. That night, after everyone left, Ethan sat on his bed staring at the watch, smiling to himself as he listened to the quiet tick, tick, tick. He didn't notice the silence in the hall. He didn't notice the shadow under the door stretching farther than it should. Then he heard it, faint but unmistakable. "Are you ready to pay it back, Ethan?" His smile froze. He whipped his head around, scanning the room. No one there. The voice came again, softer, almost tender. "Time's up." The next morning, everything felt off. At breakfast, his mother spilled steaming coffee on his lap. He cried out in pain, but she didn't even glance at him, just kept sipping her drink, eyes glassy and distant. When he got to school, his best friend Max sneered at him and shoved him into a locker. "Nobody likes you, freak," Max hissed. At lunch, nobody would sit with him. The teachers ignored him, even when he raised his hand and called out. By dinner, even his father wouldn't look at him. It was like he'd become invisible overnight, or worse, like everyone saw him but no longer cared. That night, as he lay in bed staring at the ceiling, he heard the voice again. "You've had your turn, now it's mine." This time, it came from under his bed. He froze, breath caught in his throat. And then, a hand slid out from the blackness beneath him. It was long, gray, and thin, with too many joints. It wrapped around his ankle and tugged. He screamed and scrambled back, pressing himself against the headboard. But no one came. Not his mother, not his father, not even the dog barked. Over the next week, things worsened. His golden watch cracked, the glass face spiderwebbed as if struck. His toys broke one by one, their heads torn off, their batteries missing. His reflection in the mirror no longer moved in sync with him. Sometimes it smiled when he didn't. Sometimes it waved. At school, his classmates whispered about him in corners. "He smells funny. His eyes look wrong. I don't think he's Ethan anymore." Even the teachers avoided him now. On Friday, desperate, he cornered his father in the study. "What's happening to me?" he pleaded. His father's eyes were dark and heavy. He didn't even look up from his newspaper. "You weren't supposed to ask," his father muttered, and nothing more. That night he woke to find himself standing in the woods behind the mansion, though he had no memory of leaving his bed. The trees were twisted, black, wrong. The moon above was red, and the ground beneath his bare feet pulsed like a heartbeat. Surrounding him was a circle of pale figures in black suits, faceless things with long fingers, watching him silently. And in the center of the circle was another boy. At first Ethan thought it was a stranger, but as the boy raised his head, he saw his own face staring back, but older, taller, eyes hollow and black as tar. The boy smiled, a cruel, knowing smile. "You don't remember, do you?" the boy said. "This life wasn't yours." Ethan shook his head, confusion and terror rising in his throat. "You took it," the boy continued. 9 years ago, when the deal was struck. You got 9 perfect years, and now it's my turn again." Ethan stepped back, heart hammering. What are you?" he whispered. The boy grinned wider, revealing rows of jagged, needle-like teeth. "I'm you," he said. "The real you, the one you left here when you crawled into my skin." He stepped closer, and Ethan saw his body, scarred, stitched, hollow in places, as if something had been carving pieces out for a very long time. "We made a deal," the boy whispered, "and now it's time to switch back." Ethan tried to run, but the circle of faceless figures moved in, their long fingers curling around him like roots. He screamed, but the sound was swallowed by the trees, muffled by the red moon overhead. The last thing he saw was the other boy, standing taller now, alive, whole, slipping the golden watch onto his wrist. "Thank you," the boy said, smiling. "Enjoy your eternity?" Ethan woke in darkness. Cold, damp soil pressed against his skin. There was no air, no light. He tried to scream, but only dirt filled his mouth. And from somewhere above him, faint and cruel, came the boy's voice. "Time's up. Your turn is over." Above ground, a perfect boy named Ethan Bell walked back into the mansion. His parents smiled and called his name. His friends waved from the gates. The sun shone down, warm and golden. No one noticed the faint sound of screaming, muffled and desperate, coming from far, far below their feet. And no one saw the roots of the black trees stretching deeper, curling tighter around something that once looked like a boy, something that still wore his face. Ethan lay in the earth for what felt like days. He could not move. He could not breathe. But somehow, he was still awake. Above him, he could hear faint voices through the soil, laughter, his father's booming voice, the clinking of silverware. Life above continued, perfect and golden. And below, he was trapped. His hands, when he tried to move them, brushed against something slick, cold, and soft. Another hand, then another. He realized the soil around him was full of hands, and faces, and ribs, and teeth. All still alive, all still screaming, just too far down to be heard. Weeks passed, or maybe years. Time didn't mean anything anymore. And then one day, something pulled. Hard. He shot upward through the dirt like a fish on a hook. The earth fell away and he was inside out, screaming, his skin turned wrong side round, until he landed in a familiar room. His bedroom, the blue walls, the bed, the cracked watch ticking softly on the nightstand. He was back, but it didn't feel right. In the mirror, his reflection stared at him. It smiled, but he hadn't smiled. It raised its hand before he could, and then it spoke. "You weren't supposed to come back." Ethan backed away, shaking his head. "No, this is my life, my turn." The reflection only laughed, a deep, wet sound that didn't belong in any child's throat. "You don't understand yet, do you?" it whispered. The reflection stepped forward and stepped out of the mirror. Ethan froze as his double circled him. "You thought it was a trade. You thought we just switched." It leaned close, its black, bottomless eyes burning. "There is no trade. There's just the next." Ethan stumbled backward into the wall. "What do you mean?" he stammered. The double grinned wider than any human mouth could. "You weren't the first. You won't be the last." It gestured toward the window, and outside, in the night, hundreds, no, thousands of children stood in the yard, all identical to him, all wearing his face, all smiling. Some had skin peeled away, some were stitched together, some were nothing but bones in fancy suits. They all spoke at once. "We're the perfect boy, and so are you." The double leaned in close, whispering the final truth into his ear. Every time one of us fights it, we dig a little deeper. Every time one of us screams, we feed the ones above. Every time one of us dies, another one wakes up. It paused. We don't escape. We multiply. Ethan stared in horror as the figures outside began to climb the walls, pressing against the glass, their fingers leaving streaks of blood. The house began to shake, the golden chandelier above him swinging violently. And then they started breaking through the windows, one by one, flooding the room. Hundreds of versions of himself, crawling, shrieking, laughing. The walls pulsed like a beating heart. The watch on the nightstand cracked and exploded in a shower of glass. Ethan screamed as the others closed in, their cold fingers grabbing his arms, his face, his chest, tearing and reshaping him. When it was over, silence. The room was empty again. A single boy stood in the center, smiling. His parents knocked at the door and peeked in. "Ready for breakfast, sweetheart?" his mother called. The boy, now wearing all the faces at once, his skin crawling and shifting like water, turned and answered cheerfully, "Of course, Mommy. Perfect, as always." And behind his polite little voice, 1,000 whispers hummed together. From the walls, from the floor, from the earth itself. "We're the perfect boy. We're the perfect boy. We're the perfect boy." And somewhere deep below, in the dark, something enormous and hungry kept counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, because there is always room for one more.